Hi, welcome to Finding the Word. I am Melanie Brown. I am sorry I missed you with the word I did yesterday. And I had told you, if you do not see me, then just say a prayer and know that I'm in the struggle, because I'm always trying to get here with this word. So if I don't make it, it lets you know that being a mom, trying to be a good wife, it can be, when I'm working, a very tough thing to balance, or tough to really get in here and sit and get this word done when I have been gone. So I cut myself that slack and I say, well, it's the weekend, it's Friday, there's a sigh of relief. And I want to take the pressure off and say, you know what, I can give myself a chance to get up and maybe a little bit later on Saturday, and that's okay. But I feel like this is giving a little bit of room where the enemy's coming in and sabotaging me early on Saturday. And then I realize when it gets too late, I'm not able to do it. So I'm going to be praying about this. Y'all pray with me. I know that you're understanding to the situation of everything that I have to juggle, but I do feel like I may need to move my time up to much earlier, especially time coming up when I'm really in the full swing of working and trying to balance everything else, that I just have to find a way to do things earlier. I naturally kind of prefer the night because I'm a night owl, but I end up night and morning, and that gets to be a lot by the end of the week. So I'm just really going to be praying about trying to become a early morning person when it comes to finding the word. So that's going to need prayer, and I appreciate y'all. The word is accept. Accept. A-C-C-E-P-T. Not accept, but accept. And this was me and Lois having a conversation. And I don't think she'll mind me sharing, because it was such a blessing. And we had such a praise report at the end that I think it's worth it. I've got to just call it up and talk it through for how accept became the word. The conversation was talking about aggressive driving, talking about people riding in the car, maybe being anxious, nervous, because the way that she drives is aggressive. The way she drives is fast. She's taking curves. She's taking corners. She has always driven this way. So when a statement is made, whether it's in the trip with the girlfriends or whether it's her kids or spouse or whoever, the feeling is, okay, this is how I drive. You know what? This is what it is. People need to understand that. I've been driving for over 30-something years. So how do you just up and adjust things? I'm mindful. I'll pay attention the best I can. But this is what it is. This is how I do things. Y'all know it. So if the statement said, okay, all right, I need to slow down. All right, thank you. We'll try to do that. Well, I'm like, girl, I know. Yeah, you know I've been driving with you since the 90s. So early 90s at that. First license. We have spun out in the middle of intersections together, screaming. We've done it. We've been through it all. And I understand it. I feel it for where you're coming from on things. And I related to comments made to me in regard to maybe how I say things. I told her, like, oh, the comment could be made to me. Well, you know, you say things kind of rough. You speak, you're not considering how we feel, the way you talk. This is how you've always done. Our family kind of speaks this way to one another. Okay. I don't notice that in the same way that those are like, okay, I don't really notice. This is how I've been driving forever. So once you've been doing stuff for this long, you know what I'm saying? You're not even seeing it. Over 30 years of anything, it is now a habit. So we're looking at it like, I'm not necessarily saying, oh, okay, I'm going to just do it. Who cares? But it's kind of like, okay, what do you expect? This is how I do things. It's been a long time. I'll put forth some effort to speak a little bit differently, maybe point it out, but to really expect a big difference, basically what you're saying to someone is that they need to accept this part of you as what it is and understand that this is how it's going to be. Now, there's resistance there. She receives resistance in some ways. Not a lot is said. It's not this big argument, this big fight. but it still doesn't sit right in the spirit of the person who is saying whatever they're saying about the issue they have with you. And when your response is, this is what I am, this is who I am, this is how I am, it's giving them a feeling of, okay, well, so I gotta accept this. I gotta accept this. So what is it that we really have to accept? And should it be that way? And is that the approach that we should have? Well, in my spirit, at first, I was telling her I wasn't going to say anything about it, because if y'all remember maybe a couple of weeks ago when I was out of town, I was giving the words and stuff, and it had come to this point of discern. And I was realizing that sometimes you can have these breakthroughs that you have received about things, and you're thinking, I've been in the Word, and this came up, and that came up, and this is how I'm seeing it. That person can be like, oh, okay, well, and they may be really excited and accepting of it, but then other times what I'm realizing is they're like, psh, like basically almost, who do you think you are trying to tell us? This is where I am. This is where I'm sitting. You can't, come and try to criticize or judge me on where I am and where I'm sitting in this situation. So in other words, if I'm saying I'm not making this adjustment right now, this is where I'm at, you got to suck it up and accept it, and you try to say something about it, maybe that's going to be offensive. They're not prepared to hear that. So in my spirit, I thought, I don't know. I do not feel like our responses are necessarily lining up. In my spirit, that's not what I'm reading. That's not what I've been getting in this last week. This is very specific to this last week of the words we've been having. Stumble and burdens and things. But in my spirit, I thought, okay, this is me and Lois. We are all about the growth. We have always been about the growth, and God taking us to higher levels and doing better. And our hearts want that. So it was like, you know what? Even though I was coming from this concern and I'm beginning to think I need to kind of think through what the Spirit's saying to me, maybe the Spirit's just saying it to me. It doesn't have anything to do with somebody else. Sometimes that's the case. But it was like, no, you gotta talk this out, put this out there. It's important. So I was like, you know what? I don't know if this is lining up with this week's words and things, because it had to do right with bearing one another's burdens. It had to do with not condemning, not to judge them, but to be careful not to put a stumbling block. So I was looking at it and examining it. And this is where hopefully it can be helpful for others, because I was lining this up with what was being studied and looked at, and how this could be a really good example of what it is we're talking about. So a stumbling block for someone would then be, there's anxiety, there is stress, there is fear involved when you're driving in a crazy manner. These are not things that we are supposed to be having. These are issues that create problems for people. Then they're a little bit offended because of the way you've responded and how you're doing this, driving this way. Well, in our love, bearing one another's burdens, looking at what is whatever you may consider a weakness that they have, whether they need to suck it up and get it together. Maybe that's what you're thinking. They need to stop tripping or whatever. But still, in love, we need to look at how to make adjustments. And the excuse cannot be for us, well, this is what I am. How am I supposed to change this? Well, how do we change anything? What does the Word say about the changes that we make? Those things come from God. Any changes that we're making are given, it's the Father granting us that grace. He's giving us that ability. Leper cannot change his spots, but we know by beholding, we become changed. We know that this is a matter of prayer. We can adjust. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. So then you have to say, well, okay, so maybe I couldn't make these adjustments, but through Christ I can. Should I be declaring what I'm not and what I cannot do? We are born again in the Spirit, and we are walking in the Spirit. So maybe my words and how I'm speaking to someone is hard for me to do in the flesh and in who I am and for what amount of time I've been doing this or that. But as a person born again in spirit, as a person who can ask those things of Christ and mountain be moved and have the faith for that, and to ask of anything and be able to receive it, then I can then say, well, you know what? I need to work on my speech. Now I'm thinking of my mother. Well, praise the Lord for this testimony, Gran. There was a time when Gran could come at people. She's like, there was a point when her mouth was an issue. She's like, I could speak and just cut people. I could chop them down. She had a superpower of being able to shut people down. Well, she prayed about it because, people get tired of apologizing all the time. They see the damage done. We can kill or give life with the power of the tongue. The Bible lets us know this. So she decided and prayed about this. Lord, you know what? I don't want to have to go back apologizing. I don't want to speak this way. This is something I need to change. And he was faithful to shift her speech, the way she talked to people, the control of her tongue. This was given by the Lord. So I know that I can speak of things that people decide to make changes. My father has the same testimony. My father and my grandmother, my mother's mom, didn't get along. I didn't know anything about this because by the time I came along, she loved him like her child. So I thought always how nice that was that, as her mother, as the mother-in-law, that there was so much love there. Well, I was told about this situation and the story. And one day my father was letting me know that they had a lot of trouble very early on, to the point that violence was threatened. My grandmother was going to kill him. And she meant that. And he decided, he said, all right. He gave this to the Lord and decided, I am going to love my mother-in-law in a way where she is going to love me and feel about me the way she does her own daughter. It will be like I am her child. That is the love she's going to have for me. And it was something that God had to assist him with, help him with, to show him the real way to love her and accept her and to do things correctly in regards to their relationship. And that is exactly what had happened, to the point where I never would have dreamed that they were at that point of violence prior to my birth and early on. This saying just to say in testimony that however we really are governing ourselves, whatever way that we are coming off to with someone else, we can change. We can make a difference in the way we're deciding to be. With the Lord's help, we can turn things completely around and not declare, you got to accept whatever. No, because we have responsibility to then say, okay, the stress I'm giving to you, the issues, the offense that you're walking in, let me not condemn you for the offense that you're walking in due to the way I speak, due to the way I drive, or whatever else it is, due to my messiness in the house, whatever things it is. Then let me then love you enough, right, to be able to make those changes. The scripture I have is James 1, is verse 21. I'm going to read 19 through 25. They're good scriptures. We've read this first part before, but we're just going to go past it to where accept is. Understand this, my dear brothers and sisters. You must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Remember that? Human anger does not produce the righteousness God desires. So get rid of all the filth and evil in your lives and humbly accept the word God has planted in your hearts, for it has the power to save your souls. But don't just listen to God's word. You must do what it says. Otherwise, you're only fooling yourselves. For if you listen to the word and don't obey, it is like glancing at your face in a mirror. You see yourself, walk away, and forget what you look like. But if you look carefully into the perfect law that sets you free, and if you do what it says and don't forget what you heard, then God will bless you for doing it. So, listening to getting rid of the filth, getting rid of the evil, accept the word that got planted in your hearts. It has the power to save your soul. But the thing about it is, like it's saying, this isn't just hearing, it's doing. In this instance, okay, I've been hearing the word, I've been looking at what it says, burden, not putting a stumbling block, caring for one another and all of this. But if I don't choose to see where it applies, if her and I didn't choose to really do it, look to the changes that we're making, then what is it saying to us? It's like, okay, well, you're fooling yourselves. Okay? It's like glancing in the mirror and then you walk away. Okay, I saw myself and I forgot what I even look like. And so we have to apply what we're learning. We have to listen, but then find out where this needs to be activated in our lives, where we do these things and ask for the Lord's help with them. Now, a couple other scriptures that really are on the other side of things, because we do have to look from both sides. If you are the person who feels like, oh, I'm just, look how messy you are. Look how bad you're driving. If you're that person with grievances and complaints and wishing these changes will take place, we do need to pay attention to how we are affecting others. But there's also scriptures that should be paid attention to if you're struggling with different things on either side. The first one is, they're both the same scriptures, different wording. The first one's like Proverbs 10:12. Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all sins. And then 1 Peter 4:8. Above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. This is where, if you're the person struggling, maybe this other person hasn't arrived at the understanding that they are presenting a stumbling block, that there's a fence here, that you feel like you're speaking about this issue and changes aren't happening, and you feel like I'm using patience and all of this. Well, understand, this is loving deeply. This is not a surface level. This is when you're loving deeply, that things may not have gotten to where they need to be in terms of what you feel is a response. And that person, 9 times out of 10, feels like they are killing it. Like they are making adjustments and changes. I can remember thinking, I've been thinking before I speak big time. I mean, if he had heard the stuff in my head, he would know I have really changed. I mean, I'm thinking about my words, like I'm putting forth effort, and yet it's still, why'd you have to say it like that? What? This was the third thing I picked, and it seemed really like it was the good one. Still not acceptable. So we can be in that place. Lois may be feeling like I have cleaned up. I am driving way more control than when I'm by myself. And they're still in here complaining about the way I'm taking these corners. I slowed down and they don't even see the effort. And it's like, well, it's not as good as it needs to be. I would say on the one end of the person, if you're on the end of the person you're complaining, remember, love each other deeply. Love covers over a multitude of sins, things that you can be doing wrong, things that are being done wrong by that person we love. As we love them deeply, we can say, you know what, I know that they have an issue in this area. They're not as tidy. They're not as whatever. I'm going to cover them, and I'm going to have a sense of patience and love through their situation as they grow. Because the love that I have for them runs so deeply, I'm going to put forth the effort to cover these things. Instead of bringing them all out, pointing out everything done wrong, I'm going to love them through this. I'm going to continue in prayer and support them as they're trying to grow. That's the side that we really want to be on. But if you're in the place where you're getting the criticisms, we can ask the Lord. So instead of it just being, you know what, this is me, okay? Take it, leave it, whatever. You knew this about me. I'm old. How you expect me to be different? You know how long I've been doing this and driving like this? You know how long I've been messy? You know how long I've been talking this way? Whatever it is, let's understand that God can make those changes within us. We just have to be able to get rid of whatever the pride is there, whatever that we are looking at that is keeping us in this place, and give that to the Lord and say, you know what? I can do all things through Christ. I can make these adjustments and changes. This is a small thing for the Lord. Let me get in the Word. Let me ask the Lord for strategies on how to make these adjustments so that I don't present a stumbling block for my brother in regards to offense, or for my sister in the Lord, or my loved one in the way that I am behaving. So her and I were able to declare things for ourselves, and knowing and trusting and believing and being excited for what God is going to do in our lives, and that we are going to be able to overcome things that maybe seemingly are just a part of who we are. We will be seeing what God's going to do for us in the Spirit as we walk this out in love. Don't forget to find the word and be patient with me. I will see you tomorrow.